Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ice Cold Takes podcast. I'm your host, Joey DeMeglio, and the news just keeps on coming in for the New York Rangers. This week was another one filled with headlines as they continue to slump. They got a big win last night against the Dallas Stars. It's the first of 7 straight games against playoff opponents. The Rangers haven't had a good run against playoff teams this season. Last night was only their third win in, I believe, 12 tries against playoff teams this year. But the big news that came out this week was Kaapo Kakko, the former second overall pick from 2019, was traded to the Seattle Kraken on Wednesday. So we're going to start with that. And then there were some other reports going on about, a players only meeting, a closed door meeting. We'll talk about that. And then Matt Rempe was called up too. And we'll close out the show with that. So to start, Kaapo Kakko traded to the Seattle Kraken on Wednesday. The Rangers received defenseman, a right-handed defenseman, Will Borgen, a 2025 third and a 2025 sixth-round pick. So the Rangers, Chris Drury, restocked his draft cupboard, or cupboard, however you say it, after using all those assets in previous years to acquire a first-line or a top-six right winger. He recouped some assets there, which is not a bad idea, not a bad thing to do. But at the expense of Kaapo Kakko, who's having possibly his best season with the Rangers in terms of on-ice play. He slipped a little in recent weeks, but he was never that second overall pick we all thought he was going to be. And that was, at the end of the day, that's the most disappointing thing here, is that he never panned out. So Kakko was grossly mishandled in his time in New York, 6 years. And I'm not saying that it's all the Rangers' fault. He bears a lot of the blame as well because he never showed up to perform. But the big turning point, I think, like at the end of the road was after on Sunday, they played the St. Louis Blues, the Rangers did, and Kakko was scratched. He was a healthy scratch. And he made headlines on Tuesday before the game against the Predators. He went to the media. The media asked him how he felt. Molly, Colin, Vince, Peter, all those guys. He talked to them. They asked how he felt about the scratch, and he said he wasn't happy. Here's the full quote, courtesy of Molly Walker, the full Kaapo Kakko quote when asked if he was surprised. Quote, "I was surprised, yeah. I know you got to do something as a coach when you're losing games, but I think it's just easy to pick a young guy and boot him out. That's how I feel, to be honest." And I don't blame him at all for feeling that way because they've done this to him time and time again. And I understand the frustration. I understand it. It makes sense. I think he's right for feeling that way. He also said a couple other quotes. Um, he said he was very surprised to hear he's a healthy scratch. He said that Peter Laviolette said the team had to change something, but Kakko clearly didn't think it should have come down to him. Kakko also said, quote, "Haven't been on the ice too much when opponents score a goal. I have not been the worst guy, but that was me out of the lineup." So he's acknowledging that he hadn't been the worst player on the Rangers in that slump, and he's kind of pointing the finger at the veterans in that way. And again, I don't blame him. I think he's been I thought he was one of the better Rangers this season. I thought he was fairly consistent up until this recent slump. His line, the Cooley Hedel Kakko line, was one of the best in the NHL in terms of analytics. Again, until that stretch, this recent slump has transpired, and I mean, he's always been the scapegoat. Kakko has, and I I appreciate and I respect the fact that he stood up for himself. But you know what? I think that his time in New York came to an end. I think this is the end of the road. This is his character arc. He never once regained that confidence he showed in the first month or two of his NHL career. You know, that Traverse City showing where he did the double wraparound in overtime to score that goal. The first month or so, all the passion, the fire, the fire he displayed scoring goals, the energy he displayed when scoring goals. The two goals against Pittsburgh in within his first 2 months, including the overtime winner. He never reached that level again. And there you could point to a few different, reasons, events for why he was never able to maintain that momentum. You could point at David Quinn for when he scratched him or benched him in that game against Calgary when he had the goal and an assist, but he took the stupid penalty in that 2019-2020 season. You could point at that. You could point at Gerard Gallant healthy scratching him in the game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Lightning in favor of Dryden Hunt. You could point to Gerard Gallant taking him off the top 6, off the Kreider's advantage ed line after the first 15 or so games in the following season, the 22-23 season. Maybe you point to the fact that Laviolette scratched him in the Eastern Conference Finals this past season, game 6 against the Panthers. But all in all, when at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Kaapo Kakko never delivered, and he acknowledged it. He acknowledged it at the breakup day with the media after the Rangers lost to the Panthers in the playoffs. He said, "I can't say I didn't get the chance." He said that to play with Kreider and Zibanejad. Now, I understand that they aren't Panarin or Trocheck, but it's still top 6. He still got his minutes. He got an opportunity to play. He never capitalized on it. The argument you wanna make, if you wanna say, like, they mistreated him, yeah, the 22-23 season when they were getting chances and he looked active, he looked like he was actually helping, he was good defensively, again, he was getting chances, maybe not finishing, but the 22-23 season, those first 15 games, that was the opportunity where they had it and they lost it. But after that, he never found a groove. The kid line, I mean, he did great, but I mean, your second overall pick, you're gonna carve him out to be a third line checker or a third line scorer. I mean, that's not really an ideal situation. I mean, you want to make it work out with your picks, but you ride him into the ground, and clearly he wasn't. He never panned out the way the Rangers expected and hoped. Now, there were opportunities to trade him as part of a bigger package. I know there was the Gensel rumored deal, but Frank Saravalli, uh, turned that down. He said that that was never in play. But there was also the Henrique and Vetrano deal at the deadline last season. How different would the Rangers look had they gone after Henrique and Vetrano instead of Wenberg and Roslovic? Would it have made much of a difference? I'm not sure. But I mean, this is what you got to do with your own draft picks. I think this is the right move moving on from him. I didn't mind the comments, but I understand why management moved on. It was th- and it's I think a respect thing too because every time Kako was scratched, you never heard him complaining and whining. He said he needed to be better. He held himself accountable. You like to see stuff like that. He just wasn't able to take that next step. He was never able to produce in the opportunities that he was given. And I made a comparison. I said the difference between him and Lafreniere is that Lafreniere produced. Rangers were very close to having a similar situation with Lafreniere. We remember all the talk last season about potentially trading Lafreniere. How much of a mistake would that be right now? He's locked into an 8-year extension, or what is it, 7 years? Um, and he got ice time with Panarin. You could make the argument that he's producing because he's playing with Panarin. I understand that. But I think if you take Panarin away from Lafreniere, I think Lafreniere is still a really good player by himself. So I'm not. I don't. I think there's a very very clear difference between what Kakko turned out to be for the Rangers and what Lafreniere turned out to be for the Rangers, and it's production. That's the biggest difference there. Moving on to the next item on the list, there was a report this week on on Steve Dangle's show Steve Dangle is, of course, the big Maple Leafs fan. He's the one that screams and yells the reaction videos. You know who he is. He had a report. He said that he heard from a few people and was saying that. Let me pull up the exact thing because I want to make sure I get this right here because I tweeted about it. It ended up being false, but I still want to talk about it and address some things here. Let's see. And I cannot find it. It's on my Twitter somewhere. Ah, he was saying something about how the Rangers had a players only meeting. And the way he made it seem, it sounded like he was insinuating that the Rangers were having a bash fest on Chris Drury. He said their problem is not with Laviolette. Their problem was with Chris Drury. They didn't like how, Barclay Goodrow was treated, how Jacob Trouba was shipped out and stuff like that. And I understand the human element. I understand the human element, but Johnny Lazarus, our friend of the show, and Colby Cohen have reports that that's not what happened. And we have written a verbatim comment from Vincent Trocheck saying that's not what happened in the locker room. They weren't doing a bash fest. But to be clear, I never interpreted it as a bash fest. I was just mad that the players were more concerned with management than their own play. And that is what bothers me. I didn't put much stock into the fact that it was in a players only meeting, and instead of addressing the issues that they had with their play, they were talking about management. That's not what I was concerned about. I was concerned about the fact that their focus was on management and not whether it was in a players meeting or not, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. But I understand the human element. Yes, but can someone have a pair of balls, please, here? Like, you're professional hockey players. I understand you're upset that your friend got traded, but you gotta go out and win a hockey game. Your goal is to win the Stanley Cup. What are we doing here? And Trocheck did have a pair of balls. He had a backbone, and I really respected his comments, what he said. He seemingly agreed with what I said. If you missed what I said the players are mad at Chris Drury for doing his job. That's essentially what it is. So let me go back to see what the quote was from Vincent Trocheck. I appreciated this. I thought this was good. This is a good step forward. Molly tweeted, Vincent Trocheck made a point to speak to us beat reporters to clear the air on a report that the team meeting after the LA game was not about GM Chris Drury. That could not be further than the truth. If we have a closed door meeting with just the players, I think the last thing that we do is complain about our general manager. When we have closed door meetings in here, it's about us. It's about what we can do. Obviously, we're in a little bit of a hole right now, and it's about what we can do to get out of it. It has nothing to do with management. They do their job. Chris is doing his job to try to put the best players on the ice to succeed. We are those players, and we have to go out there and perform. Do what we can to succeed. I just wanted to clear the air on that. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff circulating our team right now, and when I see something like that, I don't know where it even comes from. That kind of frustrated me. I really appreciate Trocheck having a backbone here, standing up for his teammates and saying, no, that's not what's happening. We recognize that we're not playing well. We need to be better. Trocheck is upset. Yeah, he's been in the league for a long time. Long time. There was a follow-up quote that he's seen players come and go, and it's sad, but it's part of the business. He said Chris has a job to do, and he does. He does. His job is to go out there and make the team better at whatever cost that might take. That might mean getting rid of an alternate captain or getting rid of your captain. If it makes the team better, he's going to do it. And Trocheck acknowledges that, and I think the rest of the team needs to do that as well. And it looked like it was a good step forward, seeing as how they played last night. But I want to get to the follow-up quote from Trocheck as well because it was good. Um, let's see. Here it is from Vince Mercogliano. Trocheck said, quote, "I've been in the league for 12 years. I've seen a lot of trades happen. I've been on some really good teams where very few things happen, and I've been on some really bad teams where there's turnover, it seems like every day. Obviously for Kaapo and Jacob Trouba, as people, I love both those guys. You never want to see a friend go, but also we're losing games right now. Chris has a job. You can't just sit there and let us continue to lose and do nothing. His job is on the line as well. He's doing what he can to put the right guys on the ice and make the right moves that he thinks are going to help us win hockey games. Yeah, it's sad, but at the same time, you got to win hockey games if you want to keep everybody in this locker room." Perfect. Perfect. This is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for somebody, one of those players in that Rangers locker room, to stand up and say, listen, we suck right now. We need to be better. It's not because of any outside noise. It's not because of the coaches. It's not because of management. It's because of us. We need to be the better players. We need to go out there and perform. We need to go out there and win a hockey game, get ourselves back into the playoff race. This is the thing that has frustrated me and so many other fans the past month or so, is that this is constantly being overlooked. And I'm glad someone finally stood up and said, "Hey, guys, we're not doing well right now. None of this outside stuff matters. We're too easy to play against. We need to be better. We need to move on from this and move forward." That's all I've been looking for. And Trocheck did that. That is leadership right there. And now I'm not, don't jump to conclusions here. Don't jump to conclusions, say, oh, Trocheck for captain, Trocheck for captain. There's no captain on the team right now. One win and one comment from a player is not changing that for me. I need to see a consistent, a long stretch of games before I'm ready to decide anything. It may not be this year. It may not be next year. But it's not a decision that you take lightly. The Rangers need a general, a warrior, someone that's going to lead them into battle. They need a captain. And you don't just pick one at random. You don't just pick one out of the players in that same locker room who we've been criticizing for weeks. You don't just do that. Elliot Friedman was reporting this week that the Rangers were gearing up for something big. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know when it could happen, but they're gearing up for something. You look at all the cap space they have, that they will have at the deadline. They could do anything. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be like, oh my gosh, Brady Tkachuk, like I've been saying for the longest time ever on this show. But maybe a JT Miller, maybe an Alex Tuck. They need an identity shift, someone that's going to lead them into battle. I'm confident, I'm happy and optimistic of the steps they took on Thursday in practice with the players only meeting, with Chris Drury going down speaking to the players, with what Trocheck said, the way they were having fun in practice. I'm optimistic about that. Do I think that's going to completely turn the season around, leading to a Stanley Cup victory? Absolutely not. The Rangers have so much more work to do. It's still the same team, it's still the same players. We're still seeing some of the same issues, even though the game was much more competitive from them. It's not time to say, all right, this is the run that the Rangers are going on right now. They're going to get themselves back into the playoffs and they're going to have a Cinderella run and win the Stanley Cup. I'm not convinced that's going to happen just yet. You need to see way more before I'm able to come to that conclusion. Way more. But it is a step in the right direction, though. Very pleased by those comments by Trocheck. Very pleased. That led into the game against Dallas. And the Rangers, like I said, they had a very competitive effort. Night and day difference between what they were playing like the past couple weeks and last night. They actually played a competitive game start to finish. against Dallas. That's no pushover. They might be struggling, the Stars, but they are a good hockey team. Very good hockey team. Very dangerous, and they beat them. The Rangers went 7 for 7 on the penalty kill. Now you could look at that and say, why are they taking 7 penalties? Why are they relying on the goaltender? You got to savor it. If you want the Rangers to get back into the Stanley Cup playoff race, you got to take it one step at a time. You're not going to have perfect results instantly. You got to take it one game at a time. This has to be a building block for them. Has to be something that they build on. This can't just be a one-off performance and then just assume that they're going to go into the next game against another playoff team against Carolina and then New Jersey and assume that it's going to happen. You have to take it all seriously. The players have to buy into the way they need to play. Can't be taking too many penalties like that because a team like Carolina, a team like New Jersey, somebody's eventually going to crack the penalty kill. I know the Rangers PK is like 1 or 2 in the league, but the best teams always find a way. Always. And that's who the Rangers are facing in these next 6 games. They're facing the best teams, the ones that have a shot at winning the Stanley Cup. Playoff teams. So they have to clean it up. Can't be taking stupid penalties. Rempe can't be running, making bad hits, dirty hits, checking from behind penalties, elbowing. Can't be doing that. Got to watch your sticks. Got to be disciplined. But I'm very happy with the effort they showed last night. Very happy. Now, don't get on me for being optimistic. And this isn't me jumping to the conclusion that they're going to go on a run starting with this win here. I just feel very good about it. Very good. I've watched this team for a long time now. I know to temper expectations, but I just had a really good feeling that the Rangers were going to win that game even before it started. Just the way the practice went the day before, the way they felt relaxed. Coaches got involved in the practice. It was fun. I just feel optimistic about that. But I'm not looking at this with rose-colored glasses saying, "Oh, now the Rangers are going to win the Stanley Cup." I'm not doing that because I've already seen what the team has looked like over the past month. Nothing says to me they're a Stanley Cup winner. That hasn't changed. Until they make the necessary moves, both on the ice and personnel-wise, like their play and the acquisitions that they could possibly make, I'm not sold that it's not even a playoff team. I'm not sold on it yet. But I could still be optimistic. I could still have hope that they can make a run and snap out of this funk at the very least. At the end of the day, they still have to put a product on the ice. They can't just punt the season. James Dolan it was reported that he's fully behind Chris Drury and the coaching staff. So I don't expect to see any crazy firings and stuff unless the Rangers just go on an absolute teardown mode and just lose the next 6 straight, which is possible. I'm not rooting for it, though. I'm not rooting for it. I want the players to prove me wrong. I have my doubts about them. I know there's flaws, but I want them to prove me wrong. That's the biggest difference there. I have optimism. They've done it before. They could do it again. They did it all last season. If we're expecting there to be no major executive changes, then you know that this team, that it's just going to stay the same. Either stay the same or Drury's going to go for it. I really wouldn't expect a teardown. That would be a shock. if Dolan supports Drury and he knows that Drury is going to do a teardown, that would shock me. That would shock me because last time he thought that the rebuild was going too slowly. He accelerated it by getting rid of Gordon and Davidson. So I'm not ready to say like they're punting on the season. Because the executives are staying, Chris Drury, Peter Laviolette, James Dolan's still there. That part hasn't changed. I'm not thinking that the Rangers are going on a tear down here. They're gonna try for the playoffs. They will. I know they haven't played well, but they're going to try for the playoffs. They're gonna try for the Stanley Cup. It doesn't change the fact that I know there's flaws with the team. But as a fan, I'm gonna still root for them. I know there's flaws. I know it's not likely. I'm gonna root for them, and I could do that. I'm an optimist. I could still do that. You know? You've gone through the stages of grief. You understand that the team is not good enough. You've accepted it. But you're still a fan of the team, so you have to watch the games. What am I gonna do? Not watch? Not produce episodes, post episodes of ice cold takes? No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm going to watch the games. I'm going to root for the Rangers. I'm gonna hope that they, know, find something within themselves to make them a better team. Maybe hope for a big trade. If they make a big trade for like an identity shifting of the identity shifting kind, then things will change. Possibly. Possibly my opinion will change on them. One game does not sell me on the fact that they're going to make a run, though. I'm just saying that I'm optimistic. You should be too. They did a lot of good things. The defense was a lot better. Has a lot of work to do, but it was a lot better. Players were engaged the entire way through. They didn't look dejected. Their body language was significantly better. They were competitors in that game. I'll give them credit for that. I will give them credit for that. Matt Rempe came back though. And boy, was he as ever impactful as he's been. He drew 3 straight penalties in the second period. I think within the first 10 minutes he drew 3 penalties in the second period. He drew more penalties in less ice time than Zibanejad has this entire season. Very telling. But he had a very, very bad hit on Miro Heiskanen in the third period and took a 5-minute major, got a game misconduct. And so the Rangers with a 2-1 lead had to kill off a 5-minute major in the third period on the road against the Stars. So that was Rempe could not have put the Rangers, his team, in a worse spot if he tried. Wasn't getting worse than that. So you could look at it and say, okay, Rempe, he gives and he takes, you know? But that brings me to the ice cold take segment. Remember, folks, the ice cold take is an accurate statement backed by facts and observations that is solid in nature, similar to a block of ice, i.e., a spot on claim. So, should the Rangers keep Matt Rempe on the roster this time? I think he at least deserves another game with how much of an impact he had against the Stars. I mean, in all 3 zones, he was noticeable. He didn't get that much ice time. Let's look to see how much ice time he had against the Stars. It wasn't much at all. Just want to double check this real quick. Box score. Matt Rempe had 5 minutes and 32 seconds time on ice, 17 penalty minutes. He drew 3 penalties in 5.5 minutes. That is insane. For a team that is so reliant on the power play, to have a guy like that is a weapon. I mean, we've been complaining for years about not having this type of player. Now we get him, and all of a sudden people are saying he's not good at hockey. He makes stupid plays. They don't want him. I don't get it. In the past, I've gone on, and I know a lot of other people have as well, about how much of a dirty player I think Tom Wilson and Brad Marchand are. But those are the guys I'd love if they were on my team. We might have some version of that in Rempe, and I don't understand why Rangers fans don't want him up on the team. He's young. He's still young and learning. Give this guy some run here. I mean, he's new to the league. You need those kinds of players. You need those a-holes. You need them. Can't have everyone be the same. He brings energy to the team. I understand, like, okay, you if you need to rely on a fourth line grinder to bring you energy, then there's a major problem with your team. Okay, I understand that. But the impact he had is undeniable. He had a breakaway yesterday and he got slashed. He was active in all 3 zones. He was making plays. He didn't get much ice time, but he made as much as he could out of it. He should have let up on that hit. Yeah, I'll give him that. Yeah, for sure. He should have let up on that hit. I didn't like it. Definitely a penalty. But my God, you got to play this kid. The impact is undeniable. If he's doing stuff out there, making the other team run around scared is makes the forecheck a little bit easier for the Rangers from top to bottom. I don't understand why you don't play him a little bit more. Why get rid of him? Why? Because he looks terrible skating? Doesn't matter. He's making an impact out there. He's doing something. That's what the Rangers need right now. Talk about an identity. I mean, I'll take that. I know, like I said, fourth line grinder. Your identity should be coming from the top, but you got to have those spark plugs in there too. Look at what Ryan Lomberg did for the Panthers last season. No, he caused the Rangers so much trouble. He made the forecheck a living hell for the breaking out the puck, a living hell for the Rangers in the playoffs. That's what Rempe could be. I'm not saying you play him like 10 to 12 minutes, but you play him every night. He's got to learn. He's young. I mean, like, if we're a tweener team, if the Rangers are a tweener team, why not see what they have with him? If they're winning games with him in the lineup, just let him play. Especially in the slump that they've been on, where things really can't get that much worse. Aside from just losing the games. I mean, they're already losing. They're just going to keep losing. What's the difference if Rempe's in the lineup or not? Just play him. Just play him. See what he does for you. It's the same deal. Like, if you put Brodzinski in there, you really think he's going to have as much of an impact as Rempe? No. Brodzinski's probably going to play 10 minutes, whereas Rempe will only play 5. And last night, Rempe drew 3 penalties in 5 minutes. Insane. Insane. Play the kid. That's my ice cold take. Folks, I think that does it for us on Ice Cold Takes today. Lots of stuff happened with the Rangers this week. They continue to be in the news. Hopefully they could go on a run here. I'm still hopeful for this season. I know I talked ad nauseum about it on this episode, that I know that the core is not good enough. I know. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Everyone's saying fire Jury, fire Laviolette, trade all the players. A tear down, I don't think is gonna happen in the middle of the season. Like Jury, I would be shocked if he were right now, if he were fired, I would be shocked. Again, things could change though if they lose all these games against the playoff teams, yeah, you turn the heat up on that. So I do think there's something there. I do think that he might be deserving of that. But as of right now, with where the team stands, they're trying to patch things together. And we should be hopeful that they could do that. Optimistic that they can. Yeah, it'll hurt. It'll hurt if they don't do that. But we really expect that to happen anyway. So just have it in the back of your mind that the Rangers could go on a run. That's all I'm saying. Be optimistic. Optimistic D. That's it for me. I'll see you guys next week.